thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about the
Oh,
Paw
I'm really
Project.
happy to. I'm really, really, really happy to.
And this is the first Southeast premiere, I think, this weekend of the
Yes,
Paw
it is. It
Project.
is. It is.
And you've been doing this for years. So I work for a morning show based out of Atlanta, but we're nationally syndicated. And I'm known as being the cat lady. And I've made my life calling to talk about declawing and to talk about how awful it is. And then I found the Paw Project after I decided that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it's so awesome that I'm getting to talk to you. I feel like you're like my hero, and like I'm such a fan. So this is really cool. And they make fun of me a lot because they just don't understand why it's a problem. And obviously, you're the one to talk about that.
Yeah, I think that most people think that when they hear that it's declawing, they think it's some fancy manicure that a vet can do, but they don't understand that it is actually an amputation. And what I like to say to people is, declawing is such a serious thing. It would be like saying that a nail trim is to a haircut as declawing is to decapitation. I mean, it is such a big thing. It's such a different thing than just a fancy manicure. And I think a lot of vets tell people it's just a fancy manicure, and that's why it's so prevalent. It's done in my kitty's here. It's done in 25% of cats in the United States. 25%, 1 in 4. So this is McDuff Conrad. Say hi, McDuff
Hi,
Conrad.
Dr.Conrad.
And he came to be interviewed, but then I guess he changed his mind. Um,
They do that.
the yeah, if I wouldn't be fighting like this if it was just a rare incidence. This is such a prevalent surgery. It's so common. It's disgusting, and people who love their cats, they go in there thinking they're doing the right thing because the vet recommended it. And then when they find out what it really is, they're so upset. And I get emails like that every day.
And I mean, the vet is recommending it. I mean, majority. I'm assuming for monetary reasons and monetary gain, not just because they feel like cutting off a cat's first joint.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea why somebody would recommend this to this extent, but all I know is that it is so common that I got an email this morning from a woman in near Toronto, Canada, who said that she just got a kitten and she made the appointment to get the cat declawed, and then something sat wrong with her about it. And so she did a little research and she found the Paw Project. And when she found out that her vet was saying that that's perfectly cool to do to your cat and found out what it really is, she was very upset.
I just don't. It's hard for me when I talked about it on air. I had so many complaints and people just saying like, well, what if my kid, what if my baby is playing with the cat and the cat scratches? I'm going to declaw it. What do you have to say to parents? I mean, I feel like you should tell your kid to respect the animal. Like you should teach them both to respect each other.
Absolutely. And the thing is that what are you going to do? Are you going to declaw the cat? Are you going to defang the cat next? Because you declaw that cat and it's more likely to bite. So if you think your kid is having, playing too rough with a cat and you're going to declaw the cat, then get ready for your kid getting bitten by that cat. It's just better for a child to learn to respect a cat and a cat to respect the child. It can work. It's illegal to declaw cats in the rest of the world except for the United States and Canada, more or less. Those kids are not dying from cat scratches, and there are a lot of kids in the rest of the world. So let's face it, we can learn to do this. We can learn to take care of our cats. And for those people who feel like that this is a frivolous issue, they should realize that declawing actually makes a cat more likely to lose its home. And that is because if a cat's scratching the furniture and the person is really intolerant of that, then the person is going to be very intolerant of the cat not using the box, biting more, acting weird, all sorts of stuff. So we have to learn that it's not declaw or death, it's declaw or alternatives to declawing.
So, this is such an important issue to the both of us and to so many other people, but a lot of people just don't get it. They don't understand, like, okay, well, there are all these other causes that are going on. Why do you even care about declawing cats? Like, what does this have to do with the rest of the problems in the world?
Well, because declawed cats lose their home at a rate of about 2 to 1. So because they're declawed, they lose their homes. That makes me very, very angry because people think that they're saving the life of a cat by declawing it. That's what vets say. Oh, I would only do it if the other choice is euthanasia. Well, it's not. It's humane alternatives. But because you declawed this cat, it's twice as likely to lose its home. So it's a burden on the taxpayers. It's horrible for the animals. And you know what? It is not at the forefront of animal cruelty issues, possibly. But for me, because it's their doctors doing it to them, and because I love cats, and because I get people calling me all the time and saying, if I only had known what it really was, I wouldn't have ever done it. I felt like we have to bring light to this issue. Cats are the #1 pet in the United States. And you know, when someone loves a cat, they really love their cats. And so if we bring this issue to the forefront, we could actually solve this problem in our lifetime. How fun is that? Because so many of the rest of them, who knows if we'll ever solve them. And the thing is that the veterinary journals even say that 1 in 3 cats will have a behavioral problem after being declawed. 1 in 3, that's high percentage. And they also say that 50% of cats will have immediate complications from being declawed, meaning pain, lameness, infection, whatever other, they'll have these problems that are surgical complications. And as much as 20%, so 1 in 5, will have that for the rest of their lives. So I think that those numbers are astounding. If this was a human surgery and that high of complication rates, it would never be allowed. And here we're doing it to a quarter of American cats.
I feel like you're saying everything that I believe and everything that I know, and it's so surreal to be talking to you because you're at the forefront of this fight and you're kind of the leader of it. And, I know that the shelter here that's screening the Paw Project is having a hard time getting people to come out and getting people interested in it. So what can they do? How can they get people to the actual theater to see that this is an issue?
Well, I think that the most important thing is that people, if they're very pro declawing, then they should come see the film to see what the opposition says. And if they're very anti declawing, they should come see the film so that they actually can learn the arguments and help, because this is just a campaign of education. The film, as you know, is not about making money. It's nothing about that. It is about the cats. And if it's now or never, because when the film comes out, if it gets the numbers that it needs to continue its mission, to keep going, we will stop declawing in this country. Already, I showed the film, it premiered in New York on last Friday.
Right.
And already veterinarians are stopping declawing in that city and in the boroughs around Manhattan, and then also in Long Island. People are stopping because they see what's happening. They know that there is a groundswell that will either drown them or they can ride it. And if they ride it, then they get to be the most humane veterinarian in their county or whatever, because they're the first to say, I will no longer declaw. So it's happening. And I think that the people who are going to watch the film on Sunday with you guys, if they just take this message and they spread it, even if they spread it just to 5 people and 1 veterinarian, that's all I ask, because that's how the word gets out. That's how we protect cats, is by spreading the word.
Did you have people making fun of you or telling you that declawing is not important and you should pick another issue to support?
Of course, I've always had people making fun of it. In fact, when I first started doing this, people questioned whether I was really a veterinarian. I got a letter from another veterinarian who said, Dr. Conrad, ? If you really are a doctor, don't you know claws can put an eye out? You must not really be a veterinarian. And I'm thinking, okay, I went to UC Davis. That is a real vet school. And I am really a veterinarian. You can look me up. I am really one. And the reason I'm doing this is because I thought veterinarians were supposed to protect their patients. I never thought veterinarians were supposed to do stuff that is convenient to the owners of the patients. This is not what veterinary medicine is. Veterinary medicine needs to be brought back to what it should be, which is it protects the animals. Veterinarians should be the biggest animal advocates ever, because that is their job. They are doctors for animals, and they should be protecting animals. They should be like, veterinarians want to be paid like they're pediatricians, but they don't want the liability. They want animals to be property when something goes wrong. And I'm saying, no, you can't have it both ways. You are their doctor. You are their advocate. You take care of them. You do not do something that's wrong for them. And if we did that, if veterinarians stuck together and they did that, all sorts of animal problems would go away. Do you think that veterinarians aren't complicit in puppy mills? There's a veterinarian at the very beginning of at condoning puppy mills. The way that chickens are treated, cows, pigs, all these things. There's a veterinarian who's condoning this and letting it happen. And we have to say, no, we are their doctors. We do not put up with the way that they're being handled. No, we're their advocates.
So you never did a declaw at all? You learned about it at school, obviously, right?
I did learn about it, but I have to tell you, I didn't go to school. I was supposed to learn about it, but I didn't want to be part of it. And I never did it. I've never done it. I've made enough mistakes as a veterinarian by accident. I don't want to make mistakes that I know are wrong already. Veterinary medicine is an art. You go in, you try and protect animals, and sometimes after the fact or after something goes wrong, you realize where your diagnosis was wrong. That happens to all of us. I do not want to be somebody who goes in knowing I'm doing something wrong and do it anyway. I just refuse. This is not the way I see veterinary medicine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would. If you just took out the animals and put people in their spot, no one would be taking these risks and no one would be treating their patients like this.
Exactly. And you know what else? If I do that sometimes, I say, okay, now just change it to toddler. I'm a pediatrician and I'm going to tell, oh, Mrs. Smith, your toddler is writing on the wall. So why don't we just cut the fingers off and stop writing on the kid will stop writing on the wall. And people are like, oh, that's disgusting. And even if I say with dogs, dogs are getting declawed now because they scratch hardwood floors. So when I say it about dogs, people are like, oh my God, the inhumanity of it. And I'm like, well, cats, it's the same thing, it's the same bone removal, but in, dogs are just more demonstrative and they're bigger. Dogs will tell you they're hurting. Cats will just go hide. So
there's a woman that works with me on the show, and her boyfriend cut off the first knuckle of his finger. And I told her that declawing a cat is pretty much the same thing.
I mean, it's funny to me because I think why would nature not make the same setup for cats and people and dogs? Why do you think cats don't experience pain? They handle it differently. It's the same as like the difference between working with a cow and working with a horse. Horses, anything goes wrong, they're immediately demonstrative of it. They're rolling on the ground. They're telling you everything, how much they hurt. They're everything. Cows are so silent about when they're hurting. And when you figure it out, you realize that cow is in a lot of pain. But they're just different. And cats are like that too. They hide. People will think that a cat who's curled up in the back of a cage after being declawed is just sleeping comfortably. I can guarantee you that cat is dealing with so much pain, but that is the way they're dealing with it, is by curling up.
I just can't even put into words, you know what I mean? Because I understand everything that you're saying, but it's so hard for me to get my message across. And my coworkers tell me that I'm being too combative about it. Like maybe if they're telling me it's not important, or telling me how can I compare this to sick kids? Why is it that my cause? Why is it cat declawing? How do I tell them that it is important without getting so I tend to cry really easily about it. But I feel so passionate about it. I just want people to understand what is going on and why it needs to end.
The thing I have to say is that compassion doesn't have a boundary. I mean, you can be compassionate about children and you can be compassionate about the environment and cat declawing. I mean, this is an issue that is wrong. It's been something that a lot of people have struggled with and have have decided that it is wrong. And now you are going to be part of the voice that says, let's stop this issue so we can go on to the next. Let's stop this issue in North America, and then we can go on to the next issue. And that's all I'm saying is I'm not going to give up. And for your co-workers and colleagues, I'm not going to give up. So deal with the fact that it is wrong. Just join us and then move on. And you can move on to whatever issue you care about. But for me, just because I care about cats and declawing doesn't mean I don't care about the environment or starvation or overpopulation or anything. It's just that this is an issue I know I can solve. And some of the other issues are way too daunting to solve.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I feel so honored that you took the time and talked to me. I mean, I'm no one, and you're the leader of the pact, and I'm just, thank you so much.
You know what? You aren't no one. You're the rapper. You're the official rapper on for declawing. And also the other thing is that, you know, you have this voice, you have a place to say what matters to you, and you have the passion. You're exactly what makes the Paw Project move forward, because we find people like you, and you are going to do it. And you're going to tell people, and you're not going to let them tell you there's a reason to declaw, because there isn't. There is no good reason to declaw a cat.
And there's so many alternatives. All right, yes. I will get the word out. Thank you so much, Dr. Conrad. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, have a good night.
Talk to you too. Bye.
Bye.